It's 3 o'clock. Get the meeting started. That bang. I'll take a roll call, please.
Stanislaus County,
Here.
City of Ceres,
Here.
City of Houston, City of Modesto,
Here.
City of Newman, City of Oakdale, City of Patterson,
Here.
City of Riverbank,
Here.
City of Turlock, and City of Waterford.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Item 3 on the agenda. Is there any remote participation for today?
There is no remote participation, Mr. Chair.
Great. I'll move on to item 4, public comment. Is there anybody in attendance that would like to speak on public comment? And then I'll move on to 5A of the consent calendar. Motion to approve the Management and Finance Committee minutes of January 8th, 2025. Questions or comments? Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve. Stanislaus County.
Second, Waterford.
Got a motion from Stanislaus County, a second from Waterford. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to 6A, draft federal fiscal year 2027 to 2030 funding round guideline.
Good afternoon. You're going to be seeing a lot of me today. Yes, I'll be presenting this item. These are the draft funding round guidelines for the years 2027 through 2030. That's 4 federal fiscal years of funding that we're proposing program. This item is just for discussion. We'll be coming back next month for a recommendation. Next slide, please. So a bit of background. This funding round is all about 2 fund types: Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program, also known as CMAQ, and the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. CMAQ funds are meant to help clean up the air, reduce congestion, and STBG funds, they also go by RSTP. They are really flexible for any sort of work that would be done on a federal aid roadway. So from road rehabilitation to safety, bike ped, you name it, needs to be on a roadway. Next, actually, you might have a little bit more on this. Oh yeah, this slide, fund estimate. So $96 million is the most we've ever programmed of these funds at a time, by far. Normally we program about 30 million or 33 million at a pop. That's because we're doing two funding rounds worth of money by programming 4 years. A little bit of background. So this number did not come out of a vacuum. We've had 3 workshops with your local agencies. And our agency, we are not programmed out into the future as far as we should be. We have a document called the Federal Transportation Improvement Program. It's like your capital improvement program. It's supposed to go out at least 4 years. We are actually only programmed out about 2 years right now. So we need to go out 2 years immediately. But by the time we get done with this funding program, then we'll still only be programmed out about 2 years if we just did a 2-year round. So to really get 4 years out, we have to do 4 years. So we talked to the local agencies. Do you want to do 2 funding rounds back to back? And the overwhelming answer is no. No, we don't want to do this twice. Can we just do it once and get it over with? Sure. We came up with a schedule that was way too aggressive. And our local public works said, love your attitude, give us more time. So we've been listening, and what you're seeing is a funding round that responds to that feedback. Next, well, I'll read those numbers to you, which are that we have about 96 million to program. That's about half and half CMAQ and STBG. Next slide. So about CMAQ, following past precedent, STANCOG programs funds for transportation demand management. This is where you essentially use money to get people to not drive their cars. For us, that's Stannis Cruise, where we have actual incentives and motivations to help people walk, bike, take transit, do anything other than drive alone during rush hour. And Stannis Cruise also, and Stan RTA also has their incentives to encourage taking transit. These numbers might look large, but again, it's over 4 years. So for Stan RTA, that's 200 grand a year. For Stannis Cruise, that's 1 million a year. These are estimates from us talking with Stan RTA and Stannis Cruise. We're looking to refine these numbers, but that's where we are right now. That leaves 41 million for competitive CMAQ funding. Next slide. CMAQ STBG, similarly, we have 200,000 that comes off the top annually. That's for the acronym PPM, which is Planning, Programming, Monitoring, basically what Blake and I and your staff at StanCog do. But this is not all of the funds that are used for staff. This is just one source of funding that we use to help pay for our planning and programming. That, after taking that off the top, that leaves 49.7 million available for the competitive funding round. Next slide. This table looks a little crazy, I understand, but it's actually the product of multiple different variations and iterations. We heard, again, loud and clear from our local agencies, applying for 2 million at a pop is not worth our time when we have some really big projects that need some bigger money. So we separate, especially with 96 million available, we have the opportunity to create a large category class. So we put 21 million of CMAC and about 20 million of STBG into the large category. And for the small category, 20 million of CMAC and 30 million of STBG. In the large category, we have a maximum request that anyone can apply for of either of those funds. And that's 5 million per application, with a maximum of 3 applications per agency. On the small category, the most any agency can apply for a single project is 2 million, with a maximum of 5 projects per agency. So what that means down on the bottom is there could be about 2 to 4 large CMAC projects, about 4 large STBG projects, 10 of the small category of CMAC, and 15 of the small category of STBG. Again, depending on how much is requested. But if they ask for the maximum, that's what we could see coming out of this funding round. A single agency that worked really hard on the applications, did a really good job, was implementing our long-range transportation plan, hitting all the numbers, could come out of this with 3 large projects at 5 million each, so 15 million. They could come out with 5 small projects at 2 million each, 10 million, for a total of 25 million for any single agency. Next slide. The fund guidelines do have some exceptions. One of them is the City of Turlock. The City of Turlock is an exceptional agency. They are not just a city, but they're also a transit operator. To limit them to just what a single agency or a single transit operator could apply for was deemed unfair by everyone in the workshop. So they're allowed 1 additional large application, 1 additional small application, provided that they are applying for both transit and kind of non-transit projects. We're expecting some transit operating assistance applications from this round. The maximum we are capping it at is that any new or expanded transit service would be limited at 3 million per year request, and that would be coming out of CMAC for a maximum of 3 years of operating assistance. Again, this is not to pay for existing transit operations. This would be someone going above and beyond what's out there right now. When you go above and beyond, you get people out of their cars and off the road, and you reduce emissions. And we believe this funding round is a good opportunity for doing that. This limit doesn't apply to capital, it's for operating. Next slide. We made some additional changes. This sort of stuff sometimes interests members of the committee, it might not. I'm gonna go over it a little bit quickly. We've expanded the scoring committee. With this much money, we want more eyes on these applications. So every member eligible agency can and is invited to have a member on the scoring committee. We have tie-breaking criteria. Usually what happens is when there's a tie, staff tends to look into the decimals to see which project to fund. Those decimals aren't meaningful when you only have 14 reviewers. Instead, we have tie-breaking criteria. Who scored better on like the highest, most important points of the project? And then if that's tied, then we have other tie-breaking criteria. For CMAC, we removed the additional criteria section. It's now a project narrative. That's to help tell the story. We provided clarification on what project readiness means. That was a little bit vague but this is the second time we've done this funding round, and we've learned some lessons. That was a little vague the last time. And then the commitment to complete, we've sharpened the pencil on that as well. For STBG, we clarified what regional priority is, and we added something about local priority, because local priority also matters. Next slide. So we're into the schedule. We are in it right now with the policy board to receive these draft guidelines in March. And then what we would do is come back in April for action to the committees and the policy board. Immediately after, we would release the call for projects. And from April to September, that's 5 months, our agencies would have to develop and submit their applications. That is twice as long as a normal application period. In the past, we've been at 2.5 months, so 5 months is pretty good. This, again, is feedback from our local agencies. And April to September, by the way, I'm so happy. That's prime application season. There's no major holidays. Nothing's usually going on that much other than, I guess, construction season. We believe that this is a good time for applying. The scoring committee will convene in October, November with recommendations to the policy board in December. We expect for like 99% of these projects that we can get them programmed into our FTIP that January 2026. Next slide. Question.
Are there any questions by the committee? No, I'll open up to the public or any public comments. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee for possible motion.
Chair, this was just an information item or
Information.
discussion? Yes.
No motion needed here?
This is,
I see.
we'll come back next month.
I got you. All right, no other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go 6B. Motion to recommend the policy board adopt by resolution the Regional Active Transportation Program Cycle 7 funding round approval of projects.
Thank you. And you know, I was so focused on the last item, I forgot to thank our staff. Blake Dunford, you're going to see his name on these slides. Blake Dunford is the program manager for the funding round. He's the program manager for the Regional Active Transportation Program, and then you'll see he's also the program manager for our next item. Blake did excellent work organizing and facilitating 3 workshops, improving and listening to feedback for the guidelines. Thanks to Blake's work, we're going to have $96 million to program to some really good projects in our region. Meanwhile, Active Transportation Program, $1 million. I'm spoiling the punchline. This is cycle 7 of our Regional Active Transportation Program. Let's go into the next slide. So Active Transportation Program, if you haven't heard us beat this topic into the ground, I'm going to beat it some more. So we were here in February in this room. We had a workshop of 3 different regions on how we could do better at Active Transportation Program projects. Blake coordinated field visits with the California Transportation Commission to every jurisdiction that wanted it. My understanding is we had the most field visits of anyone in the state, perhaps in CTC history. Of all these projects that applied, CTC and local staff went and visited those locations. So we're back now. We actually have projects. So there's a state active transportation program. They have a state competitive funding round. And then they give about half of the money to regions to have our own regional funding round. And this is that. It's the Regional Active Transportation Program. We have just about $1 million. We were supposed to have 3.5 million. It got cut when the budget got cut. We require that all applicants to our regional ATP apply to the state first. And if they're successful at the state, then they come out of our mix, and then we have the rest to work with. It's sort of requiring that varsity players go play in the varsity league before they come to the JV league. And actually, because of that, one of our varsity projects got funded for nearly $12 million at the state level. And so it did not need to compete at the regional level. But I'm spoiling the next slide. Next slide, please. So there were 7 applications submitted to the state. One of them was funded. That's Church Street. So it did not need to apply to our regional. That left 6 left. 2 of those did not apply. They were asking for way more money than we had as a region. So that left 4 applications submitted to StanCog. Next slide. Of those applications, we are recommending 2 for funding. Waterford's Safe Routes to School project on Washington Road for $845,000. And the City of Waterford's Active Transportation Plan. This is a partial request. They needed about $600,000 or $650,000, but they're willing to do it for $184,000 and find the rest from other sources. And that is our full programming amount, $1,029,000. Next slide. So a little bit about Washington, and I'm going to read from it. So this project is to provide improvements on Washington, Rainway, and Pasadena. It provides safe access to 3 schools. The area is in the vicinity of, it's got safety improvements, and then sort of sad news. This area is in the vicinity of a student fatality. A middle school student was struck by a vehicle and killed right near this. It speaks to how important having facilities for our most vulnerable users, how important that is. I've actually toured this. I've seen kids walk up on the dirt of the orchard, and then the lead agency of Waterford, they told us that orchard does not stay dry like that year round. When it's wet, they walk out into the street, out past whatever cars are parked there. There's one car parked there, but you can imagine at drop off and pickup, there's lots of cars there. And there's parents in a hurry to come and go, and local residents. And this is just one part, this is looking away from the school. If you could turn the camera around, you would see the school right there behind us. So a little more about the project. It's got 1,700 linear feet of sidewalks, 8 crosswalks, 12 ADA ramps, 2 streetlights. Roads are going to be widened, reclassed with class 3 bike routes. This is the final project in Waterford's Vision Plan 2025, hence the need for them to do a new bike ped master plan. They did it all. So next slide. We're on to our contingency list. It's possible. I don't know if it's probable, but it's possible that there could be more funding for ATP that could come through the state or come through StanCog. And if there was, these are the projects in the order. These are the projects that we would fund in that order. 900,000 for Waterford's other project, Welch Street, and then 8.8 million for the Morrow Village pedestrian safety improvements in series. Next slide. We're on to next steps. We're ready to submit a final package to CTC. We already submitted this in draft form for their review, and they're saying it's looking okay. The CTC will act or scheduled to act in June. We believe we can get this programmed into our FTIP around then or by then. And then I didn't know whether to say this, but if the city of Waterford was ready and wanted to go, they could actually get allocation at that June meeting and start reimbursable work. And if that's the case, we are ready to work with Waterford to get that moving. Next slide. And again, you're going to see Blake's name a lot. Blake did the majority of the work on this program. He's the program manager. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? And then I'll go out to the public. Any questions from the public? I'll bring it back. This one does require a motion.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Eric Stancog and Blake in particular for all the effort he put into this. And there are 3 good projects that we put forward. And really, they're all about making it safer for students to get to school. I have too many kids walking on dirt side of the road and into the road itself when it's flooded. So we've been making a lot of improvements over the last 3 or 4 years to mitigate that. And this is going to go, again, continue that effort. And as we try to continue to improve our community and our student safety. So I'd be happy to make the motion.
I have a second. I have a motion from Waterford and a second from Patterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. On item 6C, motion to recommend the policy board approve by resolution the local carbon reduction program funding round approval of projects.
I did not bring short titles to this committee. So this fund type should sound new. Carbon reduction program is fairly new in the world of transportation funding. It's not like CMAQ and RSTP that have been around for decades. Carbon reduction program is new in this Transportation Act. This is the first time we will be requesting that our policy board program these dollars. Blake Dunford is the program manager for this program. Next slide. So we're going to jump into background as usual. There's a carbon reduction program, and then there's an amount that regions get to program, and that is called the local carbon reduction program. They could have called it the regional program. They didn't. They called it the local one. We get money every year for 5 years that have been apportioned to us. That estimate is 4.937 million. We believe that estimate's low and will go up maybe by 200,000, but we're programming based on the numbers Caltrans has given us. StanCog created its own guidelines consistent with the state guidelines on how to program it. These funds expire very quickly. We actually have $1 million that's set to expire this year. These funds, we made a deal with the Air Resources Board that we would program these all to bicycle and pedestrian projects, active transportation. So our guidelines say these need to be shovel-ready, or at least their face needs to be ready to go within the next 2 years. They need to be for bike ped projects. Within those guidelines, we received 8 applications. Next slide. And of those, we are recommending 6 for funding in this order. I'm going to read them probably very quickly. So Modesto, from Modesto, the Klaus Road Corridor Enhanced Bike Ped Improvements Project for $950,000. From Turlock, the Golden State Boulevard Improvements Project for $1 million. Also from Turlock, the Golden State Boulevard Improvements Project, Pedras Road for $1 million. From Patterson, Las Palmas Safety Corridor for about $200,000. From Oakdale, G Street Bike and Ped Improvements for about $800,000. And from Ceres, Eloise Avenue and Dale Avenue Sidewalk for $1 million. This totals are available, $4.9 million for program. I wonder if I have an image on the next slide, do I? Yes. So I wanted to highlight this project, and I think I have something written about it. Yeah. So this is the Klaus Road Corridor. It was previously funded by StanCog with STVG. Modesto came back with an expanded project that has greater improvements in safety and active transportation program. Where before it was kind of more road rehab focused. As you can see in this picture, there's no clear way for a pedestrian to cross that intersection. No crosswalk, not even the hint of one that used to be. Modesto is going to fix that. They're going to put in addition to the crosswalk, sidewalk bulb outs, pedestrian median refuges. There's also going to be a class 4 bike lane gap closure that will connect to the northern neighborhoods. And Blake asked that I send a shout out to Modesto staff, specifically Mike Sakuski and Sandeep Sandhu. And why? Not only was this the highest scoring project, it was the best application in terms of just writing and presentation. The excellent level of detail was notable to all of the committee members. The pictures, super helpful. This was just one of the pictures we chose from the application. So shout out to that staff. Next slide. So we also have a contingency list. Like I said, we might get another $200,000, and then a little bit of inside baseball. When this Transportation Act ends in 2026, Congress might be able to pass another one right afterwards, but that has not been the history. Usually they kick the can down the road, and they keep adding more months worth to the Transportation Act. And when they do that, typically all of the funding programs get that many months more worth of money. So it's entirely possible we could be looking at another $1 million in this program, or 1.2 million. This is how we would spend it. $979,000 for Ceres' Joy, Charlotte, Lilac, and Camellia project, and about $1 million for Patterson's Cliff Swallow El Soyo Class 1 Trail project. Next slide. So our next steps, it's not enough for us to act. We actually need our local agencies to fill out something called project alignment forms, and for Caltrans to sign off that these projects are consistent with California's carbon reduction program document. We expect approval of those. In fact, we've already sent these out to local agencies, and some of the recommended agencies have already sent them back to us. Thank you to those agencies. We were scheduled to do an FTIP admin mod in May. We think we can do it in March. And the reason is we need to get these projects obligated quickly so that we don't risk losing any funds. Next slide. And we're on to questions. Oh, again, credit to Blake Dunford for running workshops for this program and developing the guidelines, which were adopted by the board, being a reviewer on the scoring group.
All right, any questions from the committee? Questions? I'll open up to the public. See any, bring it back to the committee for any further comments. Possible motion on 6C. Motion from Riverbank, second from Stanislaus County. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. 6D, motion to recommend the policy board approve by resolution the change in scope of work to City of Modesto's traffic signal upgrade project.
Me again. This is my last item, I promise. Modesto has a scope change to one of their projects. Sometimes we get these scope changes in, oftentimes it's just a small change, a change of fuel type, um, uh, maybe a slight change in sidewalk alignment or something. This one rose to the level that we thought needed to go through the policy board, and we're recommending approval. Next slide. Again, there's the recommendation we're asking for to the policy board. Let's go to the background. So a little bit of background. This project was funded in 2022. That was before Blake or I were here at StanCog. This was for the 2023 and 2024 CMAQ funding round. In that round, this project was successful at getting 1.2 million, was I believe the cap back then, for 3 signal upgrades. In that funding round, all applications were funded. In fact, there was still 1.2 million left over in that funding round that didn't get programmed. A little bit of inside, that 1.2 million is getting folded into this $96 million funding round. So we're capturing that. Next slide. So about the scope change itself, the city is proposing to change, instead of doing 3 signals and upgrading them, just upgrading 1 signal. The other 2 signals will be changed into roundabouts through a separate process that will require its own separate funding. That 1 signal, though, however, the cost increased by about 3 times to 1.13 million, which would require all of the funding that was originally programmed in order to do just the 1 signal upgrade. Next slide. So how do we decide? Well, we don't actually have a policy on how to handle scope changes. And that's actually typical. Many MPOs don't have a policy. They take scope changes on a case-by-case basis. And that's the way we did it at my old agency as well, because really every scope change is its own thing. It's unique and deserves its own level of analysis. So that's what we did. We looked at this project on the merits of its case. We looked at whether the project still had performance measures and how well the project aligned with the goals of that funding program. We looked at the performance of the project. What would be the mission benefits? Every project is supposed to show how much it will reduce emissions with the dollars provided. You can imagine the mission benefits dropped by 1/3 when you're only doing 3 signals. So sort of the punchline to the case-by-case thing is trying to go back to 2022 and ask ourselves, would the policy board still have funded this project the way it's proposed now? The answer is yes. In fact, we funded every project that's proposed. Even at 1/3, it still wasn't the least cost-effective of the projects that we funded back in 2022. In fact, we would have funded another 1.2 million worth of projects if we had received it. So it's sort of an easy answer in this case. Yes, this is a project that if they had actually asked for just 1 signal, the policy board would have funded it back then. Next slide. But what does that mean in terms of precedent? Would we do this? Would we make the same decision for all scope changes? Well, the analysis method, yeah, would be the same. We always go case by case. We always ask the question, how did this perform? How would it have performed in the funding round? I'm here to tell you that our funding rounds are becoming and have become more competitive. The days when we would have extra money left over from a funding round, I think those have passed. The projects we're getting nowadays in terms of competitiveness and cost effectiveness are much stronger, much better candidates. So as competition intensifies, these sort of scope changes will become more and more difficult to approve. In fact, it probably wouldn't get approved if this was a project from a recent funding round. So the lesson here is that lead agencies need to estimate their costs carefully. It's hard. I didn't know how expensive peanut butter and bread was going to be back in 2022. And Modesto didn't know how expensive controllers and upgraded technology would be. However, we are asking in these funding rounds for our agencies to escalate to the best of their ability when they're applying for funds out through 2030. Costs are going to increase faster than the cost of bread. Labor, asphalt, steel, these costs go up much faster than consumer goods. I would say in the worst case scenario, if we weren't able to approve a scope change, well, we would take whatever is remaining back of the funding, put it back in the pot, and that agency would be invited to reapply in a future funding round. And hopefully their project would have enough merit that it could get approved using today's funding round and today's funding round guidelines. So yes, we will always evaluate projects on a case-by-case basis. They might not always turn out like this. Next slide. Questions?
All right, questions, staff? All right, I'll open it up to the public. Any, bring it back to the committee for any further comments or possible motion.
Move to approve Waterford.
Motion from Waterford and a second from Houston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to 7A through C, informational items. Any comments from the committee? Seeing none, move on to agenda item number 8, Caltrans report. Hearing anyone from Caltrans, we'll go on to item 9, executive report.
Yeah, thank you so much. Rosa just wanted to extend her apologies for not being here today. She is actually at another engagement in Sacramento, and so she just wanted to say that she's sorry that she couldn't be with us all today. Thank you, and thank you for coming in the rain.
Agenda item number 10, member reports. Member reports. All right, see then I'll adjourn the meeting at 3:31.